Amateur Radio Newsline will begin now.
Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2492 with the release date of Friday, August 1st, 2025 to follow in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The following is a QST, a worldwide response to broadband satellites' proposed use of the ham bands, new call signs in Sweden and India, and ham TV is back on the air. All this and more as Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2492 comes your way right now. From around the world, this is Newsline, Amateur Radio's first independent on-the-air news and bulletin service. Now reporting from Charleston, West Virginia, here's Jim Dameron in a TMW. Our top story takes us to Washington, D.C., where the FCC has been receiving filings from individuals and groups speaking out in response to the proposed use of amateur frequencies by a broadband communications business. The response has gathered international momentum, as we hear from Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
Several international amateur radio union societies and more than 2,000 individuals have filed their concerns with the U.S. Federal Communications Commission over a request by a U.S. broadband communications company to use frequencies between 430 and 440 megahertz for a planned constellation of 240 commercial satellites. AST Spacemobile was recently approved for the use of the amateur radio band on an experimental basis for a low Earth orbit satellite known as FM1, which is the prototype for the company's planned mobile phone connectivity from space. The FCC has assigned the call sign WP2XRX, expiring on the 1st of July 2027. The Texas-based company Arrival of SpaceX is developing its network in associating with AT&T and Verizon. SpaceX is partnering with T-Mobile. The Radio Society of Great Britain, referring on its website to its own filing to the FCC, said that the company's proposal for its constellation has stirred, quote, an unprecedented response from the amateur radio community, unquote. This is Jeremy Bucci for NJH.
Amateur Radio Newsline will continue in just a moment.
If you've been listening around on the bands during the past few months, you may have heard some new personal call signs on the air that have very different prefixes or suffixes, with good reason. Jason Daniels, ZK2LAW, explains what's going on.
Hams who've made contact with radio operators in India or Sweden, or who have perhaps just heard them on the air, have been hearing these operators identifying themselves with call signs that, until this year, did not exist. In India, newly licensed amateur stations have been assigned new suffixes since the 25th of June. Although the existing older call sign forms have not changed, new general grade licenses, which are assigned to VU2 prefix, now get a combination of numbers and letters, creating call signs such as VU2DX or VU29AR. Likewise, restricted grade licenses, who are assigned a VU3 prefix, are receiving suffixes of 2 numbers and 3 letters, creating call signs such as VU33ABS. Jose Jacob, VU2JOS, the Assistant Director of the National Institute of Amateur Radio, told Newsline that the changes are a direct result of ham radio's growth in India. He wrote in an email, quote, "These new prefixes are a practical measure to accommodate the increasing number of amateur radio enthusiasts in India by expanding the available call sign combinations, while still adhering to the country's internationally allocated prefix block," end quote. Meanwhile, in Sweden, amateurs who've received the new entry-level class certificate are identifying themselves with the country's new call sign prefix, Sierra Hotel. These amateurs can be heard on 40, 20, 15, 10, 6 and 2 meters, where they're permitted a maximum of 25 watts of power. This is Jason Daniels, VK2LAW.
Amateur Radio Newsline will continue in just a moment.
The Bouvet Island 3Y0K team begins packing for the long trip starting in August, hoping to complete this part of the preparation by the end of September. According to their July 27th press release, equipment is being shipped from Italy, Bulgaria, and the U.S. to Norway, where the team plans to meet later in Oslo for 2 workshops. Activators expect to be on the island for at least 21 days. Their scheduled departure date from Cape Town, South Africa is the 1st of February 2026. The team is still looking for additional operators. For details, send an email to admin@3y0.no. Hams embraced the story of one Catholic friar's ultimate sacrifice in a World War II concentration camp. This martyr, who became the patron saint of amateur radio, is being honored throughout August, as we hear from Jim Davis, W2JKD.
In 1938, a Franciscan friar named Maximilian Kolbe began shortwave radio broadcasts from his home-built station in a monastery to share his words of faith during a troubled time in the world. 3 years later, he was a prisoner of the Nazis in Auschwitz. On the 14th of August, 1941, he traded his own life to save that of a doomed Polish army sergeant. Maximilian Kolbe, SP3RN, was declared a saint by the Roman Catholic Church in 1982 and is considered the patron saint of amateur radio. The days surrounding August 14th have grown to be important ones for more than a decade at the San Max Church in Mexico, where, with the help of a homebrew rotating dipole installed at the church, hams from around the country teamed up to call CQ using the special call sign 4A2MAX. The presence of the saint is prominent at the church in more than just its given name and call sign. Some relics that once belonged to him are housed in a small museum inside the church building. The museum also displays some of the awards the amateurs have won while operating in contests with this call sign as a way to pay tribute to St. Maximilian. The operators are on the air this month from the 1st to the 31st using all modes on all HF bands through the end of the month. The station's operations manager, Chui XE2N/N5MEX, told Newsline, and I quote, "We want to celebrate what we love on the radio," end quote. I'm Jim Davis, W2JKD.
Amateur Radio Newsline will continue in just a moment.
The most popular digital amateur TV show in space is back, and better than ever. With its installation completed recently by ISS astronauts, Ham TV resumed its transmissions on Tuesday, the 29th of July. In Salisbury, Southern England, Dave, G8GKQ, was among the happy radio operators to report to the British Amateur TV Club that he had good copy during the first pass of the ISS with Ham TV turned on again. Ham TV had been out of service since 2019, so its welcome back from Dave and other fans was clearly a warm one. To see a live stream of Ham TV when it is near the receiver stations, follow the link in the text version of this week's newscast at arnewsline.org. Most of us remember the big weekend in June known as Field Day. For 14 scouts who attended the activation with one ham club in Southern California, it will always be remembered as Merit Badge Day. Ralph Squilacci, KK6ITB, explains.
Operators with the San Fernando Valley Amateur Radio Club, W6SD, do a lot of planning each year for Field Day, but this year their plans included something else for the first time. The inclusion of scouts from Troop 415 who were there to observe, learn about amateur radio, and perhaps qualify for Scouting's Radio Merit Badge. 14 of them did just that.
in a single day as they learned about radio communication and watched the hams make QSOs at the activation site at the First Presbyterian Church of Granada Hills. Some of the scouts even experienced the thrill of HF by getting on the GOTA station, the so-called Get on the Air station, provided at many field day sites to allow them to have a QSO or two under supervision of a licensed ham. The scouts had other inspiration to draw on too. Club Secretary Bernard, KG6 FBM, told Newsline that one of the scouts' fathers, Eric Aravallo, KO6 KFL, had just received his tech license after taking a class with Ruzi, W1EH. Bernard said the club is very proud of the scouts, whose ages range from 11 to 17. As to whether a merit badge eventually leads to a license, Bernard said, some scouts did show interest. Maybe someday they'll follow up. This is Ralph Squillaci, KK6 ITV.
Amateur Radio Newsline will continue in just a moment.
Time for you to identify your station. We're the Amateur Radio Newsline, heard on bulletin stations around the world, including the W4HPL repeater in Cookeville, Tennessee, Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. local time. It's going to cost more for radio amateurs to get on the air in Pakistan. Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, brings us up to date.
Calling its existing fee structure outdated, Pakistan's government has approved its first change to the fee structure for radio-based services in 25 years. More than 1,100 license holders, including amateur radio operators and private radio networks, are being affected by a fee hike. According to media reports, fees remained unchanged until now, despite Pakistan's inflation rising by more than 700%. Pakistan's amateur radio license is initially issued for a 1-year period, but can be renewed for a 5-year period afterward. The fee is increasing from 450 rupees to 5,000 rupees, or in US currency from $1.60 to $18 for the term of the license. The change was approved in late July by the Economic Coordination Committee. The EEC acted after being told by the Pakistan Telecommunications Authority that fees no longer cover the expenses for managing licenses and overseeing use of the spectrum. This is Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
Amateur Radio Newsline will continue in just a moment.
Ham radio training for police officers? In India, it's considered an essential tool, as we hear from John Williams, VK4JJW.
In India, law enforcement personnel from the remote region of Darjeeling and the coastal area of the Sundarbans joined with police in Kolkata for a one-day session on how amateur radio can assist them when conventional communication systems are compromised. The regulations governing radio and the technical side of operating were covered in the one-day session held on Friday, 25th of July in Kolkata. The training was conducted by Jayanta Beda, VU2TFR, Arnab Roy Chaudhry, VU2TFT, and Ambarish Nag Biswas, VU2JFA, all from the West Bengal Radio Club. Remote regions of India can be particularly challenged when natural disasters strike, but even in the heart of a city like Kolkata, law enforcement has concerns about how useful their radios are. The Hams noted that high-rise buildings such as those under construction in Kolkata can interfere with the wireless frequencies used by the police radios. The seminar is the latest to be organised and hosted by the club, which often does such training for law enforcement personnel. This is John, BK4JJW.
Amateur Radio Newsline will continue in just a moment.
light waves and radio waves have much in common. Perhaps most notably the fact that they share a home on different parts of the same spectrum. In South Africa, however, a popular operating award scheme unites light and amateur radio in a very different way. Graham Kemp, VK4BB, explains how.
An awards program that originated with the Bokaroo Amateur Radio Club in South Africa has its origins as heliographs on the air. The original concept, credited to Janie Smith ZS3CM, was to encourage amateur radio operators to activate sites where members of the military once sent coded messages to the troops by reflecting sunlight off mirrors. Other club members soon expanded the program's scope to focus on a broader array of historical sites. What was renamed History on the Air soon morphed into Heritage on the Air, the program as it's known today. Using a spreadsheet developed by Steve Brooks, ZS3SB, activators and chasers alike keep track of their contacts and, ultimately, their cumulative score, which they submit at the end of each year. Organisers believe that the exercise offers a greater opportunity to learn about history, either by chasing, activating or proposing new sites for inclusion. Proposals are required to be well-researched applications that explain the historical significance of the location, which must be connected to war, telecommunications or general history, and the sites must have a significance dating back at least 75 years. As for the modes, well, that's a nod to history too. Operators can use SSB, AM, FM, CW and, yes, even heliographs, of course. Reflecting on that story, I'm Graham Kemp, VK4BB.
Amateur Radio Newsline will continue in just a moment.
In the world of DX, the Radio Amateur Association of Western Greece, SZ1A, is on the air as special event station SX17 Astro until the 8th of August for the 17th Panhellenic Expedition of Amateur Astronomers. Be listening on the HF bands. Certificates are available. See QRZ.com for QSL details. Antonio, IK7WUL, will be on the air from different locations in Africa during a mission trip in his spare time. Mainly operating on 10 meters SSB as 9U0DX from Burundi until the 10th of August, Rwanda as 9X0DX through to the 18th, and between the 18th of August and the 7th of September as TY2AA from Benin. See QRZ.com for QSL details. Steve, ZL2KE, is using the call sign E51KEE from Rarotonga, IOTA number OC013, in the South Cook Islands between the 3rd and 18th of August. He's using CW and some SSB on 40, 30, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10 meters. QSL direct to IK2DUW. To highlight the plight of mistreated dogs and cats and the work of their rescuers, a group of amateur radio special event stations will be on the air with an award scheme during August. For International Cat Day on August the 8th, DA0CAT, DL0CAT will be on air during the whole month, while GB4CAT, GB9CAT, YL1CAT, and W1C will be on for shorter periods. See catdayradio.org and QRZ.com for details. For International Dog Day on August 26th, DA0DOG, DL0DOG will be on the air during the whole month, while GB4DOG, YL1DOG, and K2D will be on for shorter periods. See dogdayradio.org and QRZ.com for details.
Amateur Radio Newsline will continue in just a moment.
We hope you've been enjoying the ham radio haikus that our listeners have sent in. Have you written one yet? The Newsline Haiku Challenge is as easy as writing a QSL card. We can only accept the correct haiku format. That is, a 3-line verse with 5 syllables in the first line, 7 in the second, and 5 in the third. Submit your work on our website, arnewsline.org. Each week's winner gets a shout-out on our website where everyone can find the winning haiku. With thanks to Amateur News Daily, the ARRL, Bernard Falcon, KG6FBM, British Amateur TV Club, Chewy XE2N, David Behar, K7DB, DX India, DX World, 425 DX Bulletin, FCC, Heritage on the Air, Millennium Post, ProfitPakistanToday.com, QRZ.com, Radio Society of Great Britain, ShortwaveRadio.de, South African Radio League, Swedish Society of Radio Amateurs, Wireless Institute of Australia, and you, our listeners. That's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline. We remind our listeners that Amateur Radio Newsline is an all-volunteer non-profit organization that incurs expenses for its continued operation. If you wish to support us, please visit our website at arnewsline.org and know we appreciate you all. We also remind our listeners, if you like our newscast, please leave us a 5-star rating wherever you subscribe to us. For now, with Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team worldwide, I'm Jim Dameron, NATMW in Charleston, West Virginia, saying 73. As always, we thank you for listening. Amateur Radio Newsline is copyright 2025. Amateur Radio Newsline retains ownership of its material even when retransmitted elsewhere. All rights are reserved.
This concludes Amateur Radio Newsline. The East Coast Reflector is now open for normal use.
WJF, Kilo Juliet 7, Uniform Juliet 5. A7 OGC testing, no response necessary.
This is G4WKW, Golf 4 Whiskey, Kilo Whiskey, testing and listening for any reports.